Hello, and welcome to another episode of Just Jesus, where we simply talk about a story that involves Jesus. You may remember that some time ago we talked about Jesus and his encounter with the woman from Samaria at the well, and I mentioned that we would probably revisit that, and we're going to revisit that again today. But again, just a brief recap, Jesus and his disciples stop in Samaria. Jesus sits down by a well because he's tired from the journey and he's thirsty. His disciples have gone off to the town to buy some food. And so he's sitting there at the well. It's about noon. And a woman from Samaria comes out to draw some water, and Jesus asks her for a drink. And she looks at him and says, "How is it that you, a Jew, ask for a drink from me, a woman of Samaria?" And then this parenthetical statement, "For Jews have no dealings with Samaritans." And skip down to verse 27. His disciples come back and they are marveling that he was talking with a woman. So here's Jesus talking to a woman, which was in that culture and in that society was a cultural no-no. Men just didn't talk with women unless they absolutely had to. Women were thought of and treated as second-class citizens, again, which is not right, but that's the way they were treated in that day and age and in that culture. She was also from Samaria. And again, as John says, Jews have no dealings with Samaritans. And so Jesus is a Jew, the woman is a Samaritan, and again, culturally, they didn't have anything to do with one another, and yet Jesus talks to this woman who is a Samaritan. And Jesus talks to her about a basic human need, and that is water. We all need water in order to live. Our bodies need it, and so he's thirsty. She has a bucket. There's a well. And so he says, "Would you give me a drink?" And so they strike up a conversation about water. But what is more important, at least it seems to me, is that Jesus met another basic human need that we all have, and that is the need to be accepted. Now, I'm not a scientist, had some biology classes years ago, but as I understand it, this woman had no control over the fact that she was born a female. And as I understand it, she had no control whatsoever about being born a Samaritan. But she was a woman, and she was a Samaritan. And yet, she had been discriminated against because she was a woman and because she was a Samaritan. Two things over which she had absolutely no control. Now, a lot of times when we talk about this story, we like to focus on the fact that her personal life was a mess, and it was. She had had 5 husbands, and now she was living with another man who was not her husband. And for some reason, we like to focus on that, and maybe kind of blame her for the fact that she was being discriminated against. Now, the fact that she'd had 5 husbands, and the fact that she was now living with somebody who was not her husband, probably, and again, this is speculation, probably had something to do with the fact that she was out at the well at noon, which in that day and age was, again, typically not the time of day that you would go out to the well to draw water. You typically went in the morning while it was still cool. Perhaps that's how she started. And then as, the second and the third and maybe the fourth marriage came along, the other women who were at the well began to look at her funny, began to make some derogatory comments about her, And so she just decided, okay, I'm just going to come later on in the day when I'm the only one here. That way I don't have to put up with the stares from the other women, and I don't have to put up with the derogatory comments. But that's not what Jesus focuses on. We like to focus on it, perhaps to blame her. But the fact of the matter is, she was discriminated against by a lot of people in that day and age because she was a woman and she was a Samaritan, two things over which she had absolutely no control. But Jesus didn't. When Jesus looked at this woman, he saw a woman who had had a hard life because the fact that she was a woman and she was a Samaritan. And out of his love and compassion for her, he talked to her. One human being talking to another human being. And he accepted her for who she was, a woman who happened to be a Samaritan. I'm wearing a sweatshirt at the University of North Carolina at Wilmington, and there may be some people who are going, oh, he went to school in North Carolina. Well, what does he know? And as far-fetched as that may sound, let's face it, sometimes we discriminate against people based upon where they were born, what city they lived in, where they went to school. Earlier in John's Gospel in chapter 1, Jesus goes to Galilee and he finds Philip and he says to Philip, follow me. Now, Philip was from Bethsaida, the city of Andrew and Peter, and Philip found Nathanael and said to him, we have found him of whom Moses in the law and also the prophets wrote, Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph. And Nathanael said to him, can anything good come out of Nazareth? So Philip says to Nathanael, we have found the individual that Moses wrote about and that the prophets wrote about, Jesus. We found him. We have found the Messiah, Jesus of Nazareth. And what Nathanael got out of all of that was, he's from Nazareth? Well, can anything good come out of Nazareth? That's what Nathanael got out of that story. Not that they'd found the Messiah, but that the so-called Messiah has come from Nazareth. And his reaction was, well, nothing good comes out of Nazareth. Now, as far as I know, I have no control over the fact that when I was born, the doctor took a look at me and he said to my parents, you've got a boy. I had no control over the color of my skin. I had no control over the fact that I was born in Kentucky. And that may turn some of you all off right there. Can anything good come out of Kentucky? Well, yes. Maybe not me, but there have been some good people born in Kentucky, just like there have been good people born everywhere. And yet, sad to say, some of us who call ourselves Christians look down upon people and discriminate against people over things over which they had no control whatsoever. Whether they were a male or a female, the color of their skin, the country they were born in, the state that they were born in, the city that they were born in. And it has come to the point where in this day and age, not that it hasn't happened before, but the level of hatred is so bad that we hate people because of their gender or because of the color of their skin or because where they were born. And we don't treat them with the respect that they deserve over things over which they had absolutely no control. Now, again, discrimination, hatred has no place anywhere. But to look down upon somebody and to discriminate against somebody over things over which they've had no control is just silly. It doesn't make any sense. To look down upon somebody of a different skin color over which they had no control It's just wrong. And it's just illogical. And it's just silly. And Jesus meets this woman. And he accepted her for who she was. The fact that she was a woman and the fact that she was from Samaria didn't bother him one bit. And so he strikes up a conversation with her. He meets her where she's at, a woman from Samaria. And he helps her simply by accepting her for who she is and not looking down upon her over matters over which she had absolutely no control. And that's a great lesson for all of us. Well, I pray that you'll have a great day.